This program is sponsored by UApedia, the most trusted source for UFO UAP research.
So this is Scott Harney, Hurtak Guides. Welcome to our New Year's Eve prediction show. It's become an annual event with NewRealities, and we have a really interesting group of visionaries, and really excited to see what people have to say about 2026. 2025 was a bit, uneasy. The energy was very uneasy, almost like the other foot was about to drop. But we're going to see what is the energy coming in for 2026. I'm going to introduce now Alan Steinfeld, who's going to introduce his great friends, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak. We're really proud to have them. Anyway, Alan, the floor.
Well, thank you, Scott. I know how much work it takes to put one of these things together. And I've been doing this actually for the last maybe 7-8 years. And it's always nice to get a little taste of the future. That is why we're kicking this show off with some visionaries, some people who understand the past, present, and future with the Academy for Future Science, the doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak. They are worldwide spiritual teachers. They're linguists. They're, what would I say? They're specialists in the fields of spiritual evolution. And we're at a point in history where I think new directions are going to take hold. So please, doctors JJ and Desiree, why don't you lead us in a kind of opening meditation for the new year?
Thank you, Alan. All of us are at a very precious time. Mother Earth is going through tremendous changes on the planetary, the geopolitical, ecological, the consciousness of the human race is being raised and elevated, however, to see a new world, a new planetary system. In the context of what we see behind us, Mother Earth is this beautiful blue-green planet, and also the perspective of standing, as it were, on a sister planet, Mars. We behold the realization in the coming year that there will be great discoveries, not only under the oceans, but also on our sister planets, that realizing that we are part of a great community.
And before we start our official meditation, we just want to say our message is that we all can make a difference. So no matter what you hear today, what you think in your hearts, what you see on the newspapers, you can make a difference. And this is what we did, the work with Andrea Puhardt back in the 70s.
Who worked with the top astronauts and also with Uri Geller.
Yes, we were able to do prayers for peace around the world. And we believe it really did make a major difference, that there was no conflicts at that time, where we were focusing mostly at that time on the Middle East.
And what we discovered was the use of harmonics, sound, right, connected with the pineal gland, or the third eye, as it was known in ancient India. And so our methodology has been to bring together sacred vibration, both of our lips, from our heart, from our spiritual third eye, and also from the vibrations of Mother Earth, the global tone and raising of consciousness, because this is the purpose of incarnation, to bring the vibrations of the universe into human form, and to bring the orchestration of what the ancient sages called Pax et Concordia, peace and harmony, with the vibrations of the heavenly and the earth coming into balance, as we read and hear in the I Ching, in all the great Oriental traditions of mysticism.
And just to say, when we work with Credo Mutua in South Africa, who's a Zulu shaman, he always said, prophecy is God's early warning system. That means whatever we see, whether it's in ancient text or whether it's something that you'll hear in the next couple of hours, we can make a change, a shift, when we collectively can move our consciousness into more of the light. So we're going to start with the meditation with
and the mantras we're using 7 times for the 7 chakra levels, or the 7 seals in the Judeo-Christian and the Sanskrit traditions, realizing that we are a temple spirit. This is what was echoed in King David, Psalm 122. I was happy when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. That house is within my heart. We are here to orchestrate as beings of light, futurism and knowledge, a positive future. We turn to you, divine source. We turn to you. We invoke the ancient Sanskrit mantra for body, mind, and spirit, the 3 vibrations of Om Shanti 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 Om. We're going to lead you in this. Close your eyes and visualize with your spiritual vision the planetary system.
Yes, and see the planet, as we say this, being surrounded by a beautiful dove of light. Even if we want, with the visual image behind us, put your arms around the planet with love, with caring, with transformation, and let us see the peace that can prevail on earth and also in the heavens as we say the sacred expression.
Om Shanti 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 Om. 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 As we now send the white dove around the world, we send over the Middle East this white dove with radiations of light to the children of Gaza, to all those suffering on all sides of the Middle East. And we invoke the name of the Most High, it's known as the Ancient One in the Aramaic, Atik Yomim, which is the source for all of the three great Abrahamic religions, that they may come into balance, they may come into resolution, they may put compassion and love foremost in the work that is going on. And may we ask the children of light to join us throughout the world as we send this white dove to other countries.
And as we see this unity of spirit and of oneness, let us acknowledge the fact that Atik Yomim is tied into consciousness. And that's how peace, love, and joy can spread, because consciousness is not limited to who we are. Consciousness is all throughout the planet. And when we put our positive thinking into that consciousness field, we are actually making a difference everywhere. And even if we don't see immediate miracles take place, you don't know what's happening to the small child or the elderly woman. When we put this positive energy out through the consciousness field of the planet, we make a big difference. We make a great transformation, and it helps us in our own soul evolution.
We invoke the divine source for all peoples, especially those in the Middle East, that they may turn to the Most High, that they may feel the higher source of light and coevolution within their hearts, that they may strike a higher vibratory level of compassion in the area of time and change. And so I'm going to invoke this 7 times. Please join me. Atik Yomim, 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 Atik Yomim. From the regions, the elevations of the Elohim, B'nai Elohim, we ask that the hierarchies of light, joy, and cosmic law come upon Mother Earth and show themselves this year in greater abundance and greater signs of the change that is necessary.
And so let us visualize with our third eye, our mind's eye, the planet surrounded by a big heart of divine love. And let that heart literally fill everyone's heart in 2026. Let us come together to see what astronaut Edgar Mitchell has seen as the overview effect, where we are all one humanity. There is no separations when you look at the planet. There is only the oneness, the sharing. And we all may be different aspects of the divine spark, but yet we come from that higher source of unity, that higher source of love. And so let us look at...
Take joy in the dove that is now sent to Russia and Ukraine, encircling these areas and putting beams of light down as we will project with the vibrations of our voice, our heart, our spirit now. Both great traditions of Ukraine and Russia go back to the Greek language in their spirituality. And so we invoke in the Greek the sacred mantra of good peace or holy peace,
which is Agios Irene.
12
Hagios for holy, Irene for Greek for peace.
May the 12 divisions of humanity circle the earth in light and joy, but focus together from all directions upon Russia and Ukraine, that peace, sustainable peace, reconstruction, restoration, and reconnection will take place as we say this mantra together. Agios Irene, 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 Agios Irene.
And let us feel once again as we center ourselves and realize the ancient expression that's used also in Japan for the World Peace Prayer Society. May peace prevail on earth, but also in Japanese, it's not just earth, but it's the heavens. So we feel the vibrations of that energy, not just happening here, but happening in the cosmos, because we realize that the cosmos is not that different from what takes place on the planet. And so we ourselves can be empowered to bring forth a greater transformation, not just here, but also around us in all places, not just in the third dimension, but also in the fifth dimension, up until the eighth dimension, where we go beyond space and time, and we become the emissaries of light that can truly make a difference, not only within us, not only in our families that we interact with at all times, whether it be the spiritual family or the physical family, but also in the power of unity and peace in the heavens.
And so we send a third dove to the Pacific nations of China, Taiwan, and Japan, that there may be peace in the Far East. We invoke the vibration of Mother Earth to Mother Sky, and the vibration of Kuan Yin, which means in the Chinese, an aspect of the Divine Mother, the mothering, the Divine Feminine, that is so crucial to the peace of our planet, our future of human civilization.
And before we say this beautiful expression of Kuan Yin, we have to understand she is the mother of compassion, and she has 1,000 arms, and anyone who calls to her can receive her help. And this is not different from powers like the Archangel Michael. He doesn't leave where he is to come and help you when you call upon him. You just simply ask, and he sends a part of his consciousness energy to be with you. So we are, we'll say, augmented by these higher powers of light when we unite with them, when we share with them, when we ask them for their help.
This is the musical cosmology of consciousness that is necessary as we go ahead next year. It's the vibrations, the sacred mantras used by the great civilizations now brought into the human perspective of each of us as a peacemaker, a pillar of light, part of the avant-garde for the necessary but beautiful changes that will come to the mothering aspect within our hearts, shared with all nations. And so we invoke 7 times again in our final mantra, the vibration of Divine Mother. Kuan Yin. Return to you, Divine Source, for light, wisdom, and the superluminal light and energy necessary from the sky into our human dimension, so that all truth seekers may turn this coming year to the sky and realize the divine family that is coming much closer. Use us for miracles. Use us as catalysts of change. and also use us as cosmic citizens. For in essence, this is why we are the future cosmic citizens in human form. We are here to make a difference. We are here at that moment of decision to raise consciousness. And we are here as the orchestration that King David speaks about in the Psalms. We are the singers, the celestial ones on earth as it is in heaven. And so it is, and so it shall be. Rule without end, universe without end, house of many mansions without end, immortal soul without end, as we say together the four amens for north, south, east, and west in the indigenous tradition. Amen, 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 and amen.
And
Thank you, Scott and Alan.
well, thank you. I just want to say before you leave, I think it's so important to put out intention, because really the future is up to us. There may be elements moving through time and space, but our consciousness with a higher intention can really shift the future no matter what we may see in this moment. It is a very movable sort of target. And bringing in the ancient mantras shows us the real timeless nature of human existence. So the past, the present, and future are sort of fabricated in the sense, and we are here in this moment to be the best, to create the best world possible. So thank you both for your...
Absolutely. Thank you, Alan.
Peace to all of us. Peace.
Thank you, JJ and Desiree.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for the prayers. It's always good to have a little prayer to start off, don't you think, Scott?
Yeah, it's wonderful. You're really uplifting. Yeah, because we're going to hear some, maybe some disturbing things tonight. We don't know. We don't know what 2026 has to bring in, but that was such an uplifting message. Thank you very much, and blessings for the new year.
Does Steve want to? I think.
Well, Alan, why don't we bring you on now, because you were going to mention you. I'd like to hear your version of what's going to happen.
Me or Steve?
Yeah. No, I think you're up next. Yeah.
All right, I can go unless Steve has something really pressing to say. Okay.
Do you want to say something, Steve, or why don't we?
Steve always wants to say something. Unmute, Steve.
I was just saying goodbye to JJ and Desiree. I was waving goodbye. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Desiree. That's all. I'll wait. I won't say.
Okay.
I have lots to say in a bit.
All right, great. I want to hear it. But anyway, thanks, Scott. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this. This is going to be rebroadcast on my YouTube channel, NewRealities, after this is finished. So anyway, a couple of things come to me as I tune into the future. The first is not a political statement at all, but it's sort of what came. And I don't know, I think I'm going out on a bit of a limb here, but it seems to me, as I see it now, and of course the future always saying, that I don't think Donald Trump is going to finish this year. I think around June or July, maybe he will, and who knows, he may be forced to leave office, he may choose to leave, or he may be involuntary leaving office, but it's going to leave a big gap in the political scene, and we're going to see a lot of unifications among the parties, but also a lot of divisions. I think new political parties are going to be forming. And so we have a kind of emergence of a new level of government. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's just my sensing about Trump's term only going another 6 months or so, or something like that. So that's one thing. And in that, the new mayor of New York has political aspirations. I'm sure everyone knows that. He wants to see how he does these first 4 years in New York. I think the political landscape in general of the country is going to be calming down a bit, but also acting up in some areas as we are in a real full change in governance. Really, that's what I mean, in the governance of people. You know, maybe even something like, and I don't know if this is going to happen now, but a sort of email voting system that will come into play. Maybe not in the next year or so, but in the next few years, some way of identifying, registering your emails and then voting that way, which will be a lot more, I think, a lot more democratic in a way. It will be more of a people's republic in that sense. So that's another thing. I also see the use of drone cars, one person or car drones that will be flying. I think some of those drones over New Jersey last year were part of experiments in huge size drone machines. So the mode of transportation will be different in the next couple of years. I mean, we're going to have a different kind of driver's license to drive one of these, but that is like what we've always seen in the Jetsons. That is coming. That is definitely coming in the next, maybe not so much this year, but in next year, possible next few years. There's going to be a huge shift in AI optimization, new kind of inventions concerning AI and new dealings with AI that have yet to be used in the way it's being used now as just a kind of another information system. But I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a much more service-oriented technology that can be used as a tool. Let me see, what else do I see here? I see a little more aggression with China and Taiwan, a possible treaty between Israel and Iran as Iran's government moves out of an old regime towards a much more people-orientated government, less controlled by political options. The economy will reach new lows and highs. Cryptocurrency, as everyone knows, is here to stay, but that's going to institute major changes. It's going to be a more of a fundamental way of exchange that will happen. I see more interstellar objects coming, like 3i Atlas. That was only the third, but there's going to be at least 2 or 3 more. I see actually about 2.5. I don't know, something going to be split apart. So it's we have to be just more aware of outer space. And that brings me to my final point, is that the UFO phenomena is alive and well and ramping up 2026 into 2027. People like Darryl Inca said, 2027 is the year everything changes. I think this next year we're going to have much more worldwide sightings. We're going to have massive sightings over major cities, at least one in the US, one in Europe, and probably one in South America, but definitely US and Europe. We're going to have a mass, sort of like the Phoenix Lights, but it will be much more acknowledged. So we're going to have more disclosure, more government transparencies. It's still going to be a fight, but there's going to be some kind of shift in the public awareness. It's already happening, but it's going to be much more like, of course, we knew they've been here all along. So that's going to be a change that's going to bring the planet together. I think 26, 27, 28 will be years where we're working out the kinks in the world sort of unification in a good way. And then I think as we move into the next decade, we're going to be on a whole new planet, a whole new trajectory. So that's some of my good news. I think it all looks relatively good, little instability economically, politically, but we're moving towards something. There's a theological point where we're going to reach that will be sort of like an omega point where we all come together. And this is my hope. That's not my vision, hope, but it's possible. We all come together and really form a planetary singularity in a good way, a planetary unification where we become stewards of the planet, and everything is distributed not based on wealth or power, but based on need and human sharing together. I think that's the best way possible. I call it the time where it's the flowering of humanity, and that's the time we're coming into. So that's a little bit of what I have to say here today, Scott and Steve. I wonder, Steve, you have any agreement with? Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Well, so actually, let me just. So when you mention these massive sightings, do you think that these beings, these entities, are making themselves more aware to us, or where our awareness is just growing?
Well, it's both. As our awareness is growing, they make themselves more aware. So because we're being more aware, where government secrecy is breaking down in a big way, that opening allows a shift of this exchange to happen. So it's always a two-way kind of situation. If we're oblivious, we just don't want to know. If we tune it out, and what's the point? But there's something shifting in the psyche of humans that's allowing this time to happen. So that's a good point. Good question. Thank you.
Wonderful. Now, Alan, don't forget on January 11th, we're going to have the Psychic Salon, and you're going to be giving a talk on, well, basically integrating sort of extraterrestrial encounters through psychic readings.
Right. We're going to do psychic readings at the Caravan Dreams. That's 405 East 6th Street. What time are we doing that on January 11th?
2 to 5.
2 to 5. So come join us. It's free. It'd be good if you order food. I'm going to be doing a talk on kind of UFO disclosure. I'm going to call it the alchemy of contact. What are the rules of alchemy that are applying to disclosure and the evolution of consciousness? So it's kind of, I call it the alchemy of disclosure or contact. So and then we have psychic readers there. We have a bunch of people who are really open to this, some of the people on this call. So that's January 11th, 2 to 5, Caravan of Dreams, 405 East 6th Street. We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of people, come for a little while, check it out, and be part of the human disclosure. So thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I will put a link in the description on YouTube.
Great.
Well, thank you, Alan. That's awesome.
And I'll put a link for a couple of events I'm doing and how to get my book on Amazon, which you see it there. Okay, take the opportunity and time for one of our favorite visionaries.
Well, actually, I'm going to like sort of kick it off a little bit with some of my predictions, and and I like to hear Steve's also comments on it. Again, these are just to start the conversation a little bit further on what's going to happen in 2026. And again, sort of dovetailing on Alan's prediction is, I think 2026 is going to be the year that actually it's the UAPs and the UFOs actually make themselves known to us. I think there's going to be a certain amount of government disclosure, but I think this is going to be the alien disclosure. So I'd like to hear everyone's ideas on this. And Epstein files did not come up. We never saw the actual full list, but I think the Epstein files, well, we're never going to see that list because I think too many important people are on that list. But I think it's going to become evident that this wasn't a blackmail operation. And I know this is sort of a controversial thing to say, that I mean, you can't blackmail this many powerful people without getting killed. Actually, he did get killed, but I think it was something more darker and sinister. And I think this is going to come out next year, that he was not a blackmailer, but he can be seen as an initiator. So what was going on there was, I think, more darker and sinister than anyone can imagine. And there are many other Epstein's out there, and I think it has a lot to do with the singularity, and it also has to do with eugenics and some other things, possibly connected to sort of the alien abduction phenomena. And this is a negative one, and I just see this happening on many different levels. I think we're going to see a major war in Europe starting next year. This goes back to a remote viewing vision I had, and for some reason, this was a couple years ago. In Germany was the focus of this, and it didn't make any sense at the time. But now with this whole push, I mean, it's almost a psychotic push toward war with Russia. I think it's quite possible at this point. And I think we're going to see boots on the ground starting next year. And I think it's going to roll into a much larger sort of planned war. The U.S. will be involved, but it's unclear at this point which side they're going to be on. So it's going to be a mess. That's my prediction in Europe. I would just a prediction on New York, Mamdani. Um, New York will become the new Amsterdam that the original Dutch colonists envisioned. Um, yeah, I think Mamdani is going to basically make everything legal, including prostitution, and Flushing Main Street become the next city's red light district. It's going to be Pattaya, Thailand. Now it's interesting. Wall Street is already fleeing the city. The whole, I think it was Goldman Sachs, their entire gold market has now moved to Singapore, which I find that pretty interesting. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those buildings were repurposed for affordable housing. I don't know. I'd like to hear Steve's opinion on this. And the next U.S. president, I thought it was going to be Christian Zionist, but I think right now it's looking more like I'm going to say Gavin Newsom. What do you think, Steve?
I think Newsom's not going to happen at all. I think Newsom's a fabrication of almost an AI fabrication of the media. I don't see Newsom happening. But because I want to go into esoteric, am I going to go, Scott? Is it time for me to do my little part?
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating the fact that you were at was it
Yeah,
Coral
I'm gonna.
Gardens,
Yeah, I was a call.
and I want to hear about how that
Yeah,
went in
my
your
brains are
scrying
fried
session.
because I spent last night sleeping in the Everglades, where the temperature was 44 degrees and I had nothing. So I was up all night trying to stay warm. I went to the Everglades because I wanted to see the stars, and I'm down in South Florida, and my friends are having a party. I'm at the house right now having this party, and I wanted to go to South Florida. I said when I go, well, I'll go early before the party. I'll go spend the night in the Everglades and see the stars. Because the moon was so bright, I didn't see the stars, but I did see a meteor, which what I'm going to talk about, it's going to become important because I didn't even think about it till 5 minutes ago. I said, yeah, that meteor that I saw in the sky, which I was happy to see. Uh, I Then I went to Coral Castle. If everybody knows Coral Castle, the Ed Skillion thing down in South Florida, very interesting place. And there's a scrying. They call it his mirror. They told me today, and there's a scrying pool that I scryed into for the future. So at the end, I'm going to scry a little bit into that image and talk about that. But Alan mentioned another interesting thing that happened, synchronicity, is that Desiree and JJ's backdrop was the moon and the earth. And that figures very much into what I want to talk to, and you'll understand that in a few minutes. Alan talked about the past, present, and future. That's also going to play into what I wanted to talk about. Uh, and Scott just mentioned a singularity that's going to play into what I want to talk about. So I'll start. And also the woman who's hosting the party just told me I lost a file, and she said it's the Bermuda Triangle. And if everybody knows that there's just been new news on the Bermuda Triangle about this giant mass beneath the Bermuda Triangle, it's like 17 miles of they don't know what it is, stone. That's going to play into what I'm talking about too, because so I'm going to go into my little bit of notes about 2026. 2026 is, if you add it up, it equals 10. 10 is the number of completion, right? So 2026 will be possibly a year of completion. Uh, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a shaman, and he told me that he had taken some magic mushrooms lately, and uh, and he had a really bad trip because he was sitting across from a giant TV set, and the YouTube images kept coming out at him. Uh, and he said, oh, that was really kind of crazy because this imagery was sort of attacking him. I will say that I think the mushrooms, I talked to another friend of mine who's involved in the psychedelic world, and I said, wow, this guy who knows what he's doing had a kind of bad trip. If people don't know, they are cross-pollinating or bioengineering the mushrooms now. There's a mushroom called penis envy that they call it, weird name. It looks like a penis from Peru, but it's 10 magnitudes times stronger than regular psilocybin. And they're actually, as they are doing with the marijuana, they're breeding this super strains of this stuff, right? That's putting people who are even used to psychedelics into a whole new world. I mean, it's kind of intense, and that there's an intensity going on now that, will this intensity lead to completion? Uh, I've been saying lately I don't even want to drink alcohol because I feel like the alcohol has been changed. There's a new sort of alcohol. I doubt anything we drink that they call alcohol anymore is actually alcohol. It's probably some chemical concoction. Probably no more fermentation. It probably costs them too much to ferment things, so they're just going to give us these weird things. So I was writing a couple things down. I said the mushrooms are angry, right? The mushrooms are angry that they've been engineered, and the hallucinations are unreliable now, and that's an important thing. Uh, they're unreliable. The narratives are unreliable. We'll get into that. And the visions are the mud has the visions are mud, and the well has been poisoned. All right. Uh, Mark Fisher, who's an accelerationist. Mark Fisher, everybody knows Nick Land these days. Nick Land's making a big hit. So Mark Fisher committed suicide, but he's an interesting accelerationist. He wrote a book called The Weird and the Eerie, and he says the soothsaying witches in Macbeth, after all known as the Weird Sisters, are one of the archaic meanings for weird is fate, right? Is fate. An archaic meaning of weird is fate. So we're talking about prophecy. The concept of fate is weird in that it implies twisted forms of time and causality that are alien to ordinary perception. All right. So that's going to play into the ordinary perceptions that are going on, which has to do with this, what Cormac McCarthy called the hallucinatory void. One of my favorite terms, the hallucinatory void. The concept of fate is weird in that it implies twisted forms of time and causality that are alien to ordinary perception, but it is also eerie in that it raises questions about agency. Who or what is the entity that has woven fate, right? The sense of wrongness associated with the weird, the conviction that this does not belong, is often a sign that we are in the presence of the new, right? This number 10, 2026 as 10, as completion and new coming. The weird here is a signal that the concepts and frameworks which we have previously employed are now obsolete. John Crowley, who wrote Egypt, he wrote Little Big, a bunch of things. He has a really interesting concept in Little Big. If nobody's familiar with Little Big, Egypt trilogy has to do with John Dee, Giordano Bruno, and echoing back and forth from the past to the present up in the Catskills. It's a very great book. But in that book, he supposes or proposes that physics can be changed, that physics can hit a paradigm point where the actual laws of physics are mutated or changed. Changed, as Yeats said, all changed, utterly changed, as to paraphrase Yeats, one of his poems. So hauntologically, we're stuck in a preponderance of imagery. This is the point of it. So we have the mushrooms being angry, throwing these images out of people, but we also have AI throwing these images out of people. And I'm going to go a little bit into the AI thing, which I would prefer not to. But if anybody's played with Grok as to generate images or ChatGPT to generate, the idea of just how weird this stuff is getting is pretty out there. So we have this preponderance, this ubiquity of imagery that's happening that really is having a psychological effect on people and is propelling us into some future that I'm not sure we can really understand yet. And that's where this Mark Fisher, the weird, comes in. We have these weird chimeras on our screens, these bizarre images that really, it's like Hieronymus Bosch is just everywhere. You know what I mean? It's just a Hieronymus Bosch is everywhere now. And that stuff has come. I think Mitchell's laughing. Hey, Mitchell. I'm glad you like that. So the Hieronymus Bosch, it's like that's come to reality. If, just as a quick aside, if we start putting that things in goggles, this stuff's going to get really fast. You're going to be able to generate it real time. You can put on goggles. It'll be in 3D. You'll be in that Hieronymus Bosch universe of your own choosing to some degree, because they'll be tailoring it to your picadillos and your past search engines. But so we get into a little bit of hauntology here too with Mark Fisher, and everybody's familiar with hauntology, the hauntological, being haunted by the past. So we have these images. That's from Derrida, The Spectres of Marx, where he says the spectres of Marx haunts Europe. right? I was going to say, I made up a quote, something about the specter of something haunts AI or something, but I'm forgetting that, my little quip. So, but this chronia, so questioning whether we experience time in a so straightforward a manner as the linear model suggests, we're leaving time. Like Terence McKenna talked about the end of time, right? A lot of people talk about the end of time. What would that end of time be? Would it be that the imagery just becomes so accelerated, so much imagery coming out at us that we can't even know where we are anymore? This goes to one of the things I've spoken about before, Yeats's Hodos, Camellia, and Titus. William Butler Yeats had in Piercing of the Veil, he wrote about the Hodos, Camellia, and Titus, which is the chameleon road. When if you're doing magical work, you start these images can start coming at you really fast. I mean, and we can call them entities, we can call them intelligences, but the stuff starts coming out of you really fast. Mitchell's a Gurdjieffian, so we try as Gurdjieffians to sort of focus, I mean, like to focus and to not be distracted constantly by all this imagery and external thing and become much more objective, I believe, not subjective. But with the imagery coming at us, we end up in, again, this hallucinatory void. And, how do we navigate that? Some people would say magic is navigating these different realities being thrust at us. And as these things are being thrust at us, we have to make discerning choices to choose the right path forward to, let's say, a more healthier future. So, and tracing the path is going to become very important in a second, and I'll sort of witness the consequences of an all-embracing presence in which images from the past and future have become disassociated from the histories that gave rise to them. Freed from the whole of the past and experiencing time as little more than an endless procession of images, right? The fate of ballads, he's talking about J.G. Ballard, characters may be interpreted as either as transcendent overcoming of time or, and this is something I would say, as a meaningless regression into an ever-diminishing present, right? When we're offered all these choices, we're actually maybe being offered less choices. This brings me to Iknae. I'm going to spell it Ikhnaie. Ikhnaie. Iknae is a deity associated with Thea. Thea, this is why I talked about Desiree and JJ's background imagery of the moon and the earth. Thea was the planet that crashed into the earth and created the moon. The moon got shot off so it's the Thea, Theia, theory. You can read into that. You can research that. But that's when another planet, Thea, hit the earth, and the moon was the result of that crash. That Thea possibly is what places like the Bermuda Triangle are. When I just mentioned that there's all this stone underneath the Bermuda Triangle, it also goes back to my seeing the meteor last night. We know that meteoric iron is very important, and a lot of different cultures use meteoric iron. And I won't go too into my theories about meteoric iron, but there are these certain spots on Earth where I believe there's a buildup of energy that has influence. AI is becoming the unreliable narrator. A narrator is unreliable, is untrustworthy due to an unbalanced mind whose narration serves as a case study in the pathology of insanity. So I'll answer questions later on if that's about this stone. And when you use the word stone, whoever just texted me that question, it's about the philosopher's stone too, and we can talk about that in a bit because that's sort of very important to what's going on. But there's a concept in literature called the unreliable narrator. AI is becoming the unreliable narrator. It's, we know, you hear people say AI is hallucinating, right? AI is hallucinating and it's creating an unreliable narrative, right? And the chameleon road, or the Hodos, Camellia, and Titus, is about creating a narrative through these multiple images that are being projected on us constantly. What's happened lately is we are met with a preponderance of imagery. We have so much imagery on our screens, on our TVs. It's never happened before that we know of that so much imagery is available and glutting us and trying to distract us. And what does that have to do with awareness? So Ichne is a figure from Greek mythology, but this is where it gets important. Ichne, Ikhnaie. I just want to spell that again if anybody wants to look it up. Ichne is a figure from Greek mythology, primarily known as a minor goddess associated with tracking, tracing, and pursuit. Ichne tracings the path through the world of images with prophecy and prediction. So because this is a prediction show, we're going to talk about Ichne. And Ichne is tracing images to predict. Tracking is what Ichne does. She tracks or traces like following footprints or clues. So we're on this Hodos chameleon Tias, the chameleon road, and we need to trace and track the imagery that's coming at us and be able to discern what's going on, which leads us back to this narrative, this glut of imagery. We need to be able to discern, trace, and track. This is what magical training is for. Magical training and Gurdjieffian training, Mitch, is to teach us how to navigate. So Ichnia is associated with, or is also known as Thea. Thea is the meteor that created the moon. Thea's name links etymologically to prophecy and divine sight, aligning with oracular roads. Ichnia was associated with an oracle. Thea is also, so Thea now, who's associated with Ichnia, this gets very interesting, is it's all about sight and light, but she is the goddess of precious metals, metal and silver. So we can talk about what's going on in the metal and silver world here at the end of 2026 that adds up to number 10, that is completion. All right. So we have, and we could talk about light and the cage of light. I have my personal belief that we exist in a cave of light of the super spectrum. But Thea is a hypothetical protoplanet. We mentioned that science believed exists in the early solar system. Thea collided catastrophically with Earth, ejecting massive amounts of debris that coalesced to form the moon. So I also want to talk about Uspensky, because Uspensky had his decks of cards and these multiple branching decks of cards. And Uspensky talked about those cards as images, and we have to look at time as a sort of, do we cut time up into separate images, or is it a particle or wave? Does these images exist for us as a wave where each of these images has relation to the next image, or are they just strictly particles where every image has no relation to the next image and we're lost? This goes into why about AI generation, right? AI generation is going to need the nuclear power plants, right? And we have these nuclear power plants now that we'll be using, and 70% of the grid is going to be used for AI, and it's not just imagery, it's also tracking and tracing like Ecnia does, which leads us to Palantir. If people want to talk about Palantir, this is, if anybody doesn't know, Peter Thiel's. Peter Thiel is a very mystically minded person. We know he did the four talks in San Francisco on the Antichrist. He's also very much informed, weirdly, by J.R. Tolkien and Lord of the Rings stuff. So very interesting. We have this mythological guy creating this Palantir, which is going to track. So humanity's, so I just wanted to show this thing that I've always shown. Humanity's capacity to comprehend. On top, it's the sacred. Let's say on the bottom, it's the profane. We start with a baseline. That baseline starts filling up with imagery, right? And filling up with imagery and experience. But humanity can only see that much, can only actually comprehend that much. What happens when that imagery starts filling up and we end up getting our bandwidth filled, right? And then, so think of that as the imagery coming at us really fast and the experiences coming up at the imagery actually might be false experience, but I won't go into that right now. So things peak over, and when they peak over, it's a saint, and when they peak below, it's a murder or something. But we keep filling that. What happens when that whole grid becomes, when this whole bandwidth fills up and chock full of experience that we can no longer comprehend anything? Well, it becomes this, we zoom out, there's some lines there. We zoom out, and it all becomes embedded again in that line, and we start back from zero. I'm almost done, Scott, and I'll stop my jabbering, but I just wanted to so that would be an ion or an epoch happening, right? We will be the close of an ion when we zoom out. That's a little map of how the ions might work and how they are embedded in each other. I think it's really important to realize that this embedding. So is AI filling up our bandwidth now to the point where we're going to have to hit this singularity, to use the word Scott used before, where consciousness will shift into a more discerning, that's what I hope for, a more discerning, more focused reality for people to see what's really going on and find our way out of the hallucinatory void that modern day culture and technology has forced on us. So my prediction is that I think we will see this jump in consciousness. We will see people learning to discern more. We're being forced to. We're having all this stuff forced on us now, all these images forced us. We need to learn to discern what's real and what's not. That takes a little bit of training. Will everybody survive? Will we be driven mad by it? It's quite possible we will be driven mad by it. And, but beyond that madness, what awaits? When I was at the Cola Castle today, I mentioned that there's this pool that it's a pool. You can't really see it. It's a little bird. They call it the bird bath, where you can look down into it. And I'm just going to spend 1 second scrying this pool, which I did scry before. I just want to do 1 second of real scrying and see. I get Chimera, right? Chimera. And I think I'm gonna say that I think the Chimera is not physical. It's not actually biological. It's a chimera of imagery. It's this mishmash of imagery that makes no sense. And going back to what Mark Fisher said at the beginning, the weird maybe, right? It's too weird to comprehend. So you have when you get confronted with a weirdness that's too comprehend, what happens on a macro level? A little wheel going around. I think people have what classically is a psychedelic experience where their reality ruptures and they need to rebuild it really quickly. So I'm very interested in the silver and gold thing for the future. I think I would agree with Scott. I think there's going to be some more. Oh, one of the important things is about this imagery thing. This will get very interesting and a little controversial. Which religion has what would it be called? Is not allowed to see imagery? Islam, right?
And
Islam
Judaism.
cannot. What? Sorry, and Judaism, right?
We cannot make idol.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's sort of really, we get
Images.
eidolon, we can get into all these words about this. But, so if we look at this kind of strange clashing of lots of imagery and no imagery, we also have, if there was a civil war in Europe, Scott, I'd be sad to say that it would be a reenactment of the Crusades, Muslim versus Catholic possibly, or Christian, and possibly. And that also becomes then this clash of the world of images, so many images, with the world of less representative images.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's an interesting thing along this proposition that I'm making about the hallucinatory void, the Hodos chameleontitis, AI generating images. We also just need to say that if AI generating images, the nuclear power plants traditionally attract UFOs. Are the UFOs coming to the nuclear power plants to further this evolutionary jump by forcing us? And these are just, and Scott, I will end it at that. Thank you,
Steve, I
everybody.
just want to ask you, you said
Yeah.
Camino. You sure you didn't mean Camino? Camino, that you said you scried. What was the word you scried just then?
I was just scoring the Coral Castle, Coral.
Right,
The
I know
Coral
that.
Castle. There's a bird bath. They used to call it the bird bath. Now they call it his mirror because I told them it was a scrying mirror and they didn't understand.
right,
It's painted black. I believe that this guy Ed Skilly and whatever his name is,
right.
he was using that bird bath to scry. All
Yeah.
right, and I was questioning the people today. I've been to the Coral Castle a few times,
Right.
but today I was questioning about uh, the more metaphysical beliefs of this guy Ed Skilly. Go ahead, Scott Allen.
No, I just thought you might have meant Camino because you had walked the Camino.
Well,
when-
actually, so that's interesting. When I was on the Camino, I was working a lot with Templars, doing some seances, and at one point I ended up at this town called Religioso, where
Mhm,
in 1947 the largest meteorite had hit the Camino. And
mhm.
I was told that there was a man who was made a brazen head because the Templars played into the Camino very much, and the Templars play very much into if there is a crusade, the Templars are around. So the man told me that this other man had inherited a piece of this meteorite, of meteoric iron, strange story, and had made a brazen head that there was an oracular head. The Templars found something under the Temple Mount that most likely was an oracular device. It could have been St. John's head. It could have been the Baphomet, which was a head. But the man had fashioned a tongue out of the meteor and built an iron kind of weird head sculpture. But the tongue was made of meteoric iron, which was being used to prophesize. So
Wait,
because
one
this is
quick
about
question,
prophecy.
Steve.
Sure.
How do you think he lifted those stones in place, the coral in place at the Coral Castle? How was that moved?
It was interesting. They were talking. Well, AJ and Desiree were just chanting, and there is apocrypha that the guy Ed Skillet and whatever his last name is. People had heard him chanting, and that he was lifting it with sound frequencies. I
Okay.
mean, I always lean towards like more realistic things to begin with.
Mhm.
Could I carve that stuff? Probably. It's a great feat. It's a great feat. He was 50 years old when he did it. It's a great feat. We should be in awe of it.
Yeah.
There's actually awe. A scientific study just came out. Awe stops time. Awe slows down time. AWE, if people can understand my accent. Awe stops time. So we need things to be in awe of too. But that can fold into the imagery thing too. But we have to be careful with the imagery.
Well, thank you. Right,
Okay. Am I done? Scott?
Scott. Unmute, Scott.
Yeah,
Unmute
there
so I
we
don't have
go.
to talk anymore.
Wonderful, Steve. It's interesting your point on the psychedelics. That was also my sixth prediction of designer psychedelics, DMT analogs, and this is sort of being experimented on, but I think they're going to reach the public in 2026.
Yeah, and what does that do? That projects more imagery onto people. Again,
Right.
If you can't discern, if you're not, not everybody should be doing psychedelics. We know this without training, sort of, right? If you're not ready for it, like, ooh, that's the myth, right? Don't throw people into a psychedelic experience who aren't ready for it. Well,
Right.
when they start doing these super psychedelics, like these mushrooms, I mean, my friend was like, and like, I'm hearing stories that people are wigging out who have lots of experience with mushrooms, but these new engineered mushrooms. And then we have to say the mushrooms are angry. You know what I mean? Because like they're being engineered. We're all angry for being engineered, right? Do we want our freedom? Do we want to be able to choose our own path? Or does it become a consensual hallucination as to who we are?
Well, it's like salvia divinorum. People get such bad trips is because it's not supposed to be burnt. It offends the plant. It's
Right.
supposed to be taken in the tea. So anyway,
Right.
so the plant.
And that's let's just talk about how weirdly, to go back to what I spoke about, the weird, how weirdly unnatural it is. With this huge disconnect. That's another reason I went down to the Everglades, is to see nature. You know what I mean? And we have this weird disconnect with nature, the natural world, and what's going on where we have these chimeric images that are generated by AI. I'll just really quickly mention Echo and SSI. John Lilly. John Lilly had Echo, Earth Coincidence Control Organization, coincidences. Uh, that were the good people. But SSI was the solid state intelligence that Lilly would talk about, who were the bad people trying to influence people. Where did solid state intelligence lead us? To AI, right? Generating AI is done with solid state transistors. We can also talk about the crystalline aspects of what a transistor is, but I won't. Thanks, Scott.
Wonderful. So I want to introduce our next speaker, Mitchell J. Rabin. But before I do that, I just want to say one of our speakers, Anthony Russell, he's a great spiritual teacher and tarot reader. He is unfortunately unable to make it. He's in the hospital. So everyone, send your prayers and healing to him. He's having some issues right now.
Who is he again, Scott? What's the name?
Anthony Russell. Yeah, he
Okay.
was here last year as well. Yeah, he's
Okay. So we can
a
remember his
prominent witch
name.
and
Thanks.
good guy. So we have Mitchell Rabin. He's everyone knows Mitchell. He's the host of the well-loved community TV show and YouTube podcast, A Better World. And he's interviewed healers, psychics, quantum physicists, spiritual teachers, presidential candidates, and one of the first men to walk on the moon. So his show's phenomenal. You should all check it out. Mitchell is a stress management consultant, acupuncturist, international speaker, and spiritual-oriented coach, and he's a psychotherapist. And he's been involved in Taoist and Buddhist spiritual practices for decades. Mitchell, it's great to see you. I'm really
Great to
interested
see
in
you,
hearing
Scott.
your vision, and I know it's going to be a positive vision because that's part of your work on 2026. So I'm going to spotlight you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Scott, for the invitation and all. And I know I've done it before, but it's been a year. So, wow. Well, yeah, positive and negative because yin always comes with yang. So there's no separation. I have so much to share based on all that I've been hearing from going back to JJ and then Alan and then you, Scott, and then you, Steve. It's like I want to scroll back in time and do that. But first, I want to introduce you all to my crystal ball. It happens to be green. And I will be relying on this during this talk. And I want to actually start with a quote of one of my favorite philosophers, Yogi Berra: "The future isn't what it used to be." And I think that that's useful for us to keep in mind, even though, number one, we're forming the future all the time, as has been said and echoed in one way or another. Steve, I totally appreciate your references, ongoing references to the work of George Ivanovich Gurdjieff and P.G. Uspensky. As you know, both of them have a very special place in my heart, as they do yours. JJ and Desiree, I'd just like to say I totally appreciate the largesse of your vision of a future that is ours, that we are formulating ourselves with our own consciousness. You both made that point really loud and clear. And at the end of the day, Scott, that is how I feel. It is up to us. There are many, many factors and variables that come into play to influence and shape our own consciousness as well as the world at large. That's true. But somehow the force of the human species consciousness can unify in a way that, everyone has been referring to in one way or another, is so powerful that I really feel like we can turn the ship around, because right now it's crashing into an iceberg. And I think we'd be foolish not to recognize that collectively, because it's happening. And it's happening on so many levels. Political is just one. A large one is economic. Another is just on a very humane level. Our brothers and sisters are being transported by the truckload and the plane load out of our country. This is causing a tremendous rip in the heart of humanity collectively, but also in Americans, because we all have people that we know personally who are experiencing a level of hell. They're being taken away from their families. This is an emotional rift that we are all experiencing right now that I really want to bring some attention to when we take a look at what's happening in 2026.
You're invited to join us for our 2026 Sedona Ascension Retreat. It's It's our 11th anniversary, and we're so excited to celebrate it with you. We'll be opening both cosmic and ascension portals through the power of unconditional love. We'll be opening cosmic portals with our friend Daryl Anka, who'll be channeling Bashar, and ET contactee Chris Bledsoe, along with UAP disclosure researcher Danny Sheehan. We'll be opening ascension portals with ascension expert William Henry, ascension alchemist Sarah L. Caldy, and ascension astrologer Molly McCord. Fire is the key element of the golden age, and we invite you to set your heart on fire and ignite the passion in your soul. It's time to prepare for the shift. You can become superhuman, and filmmaker Caroline Corey will show you how. You can become telepathic, and mindsight expert Dahlia Burgoyne will be teaching techniques. Psychic and medium Jill Jackson will be sharing her gifts and abilities with you. Renowned hypnotist Sarah Bressman Cosme will be guiding a group past life regression. Special guests include Rizwan Burke, who will be giving compelling evidence that we're living in a simulated multiverse, and Dr. Diane Hennessy, star of the Telepathy Tapes podcast and author of the ESP Enigma, as well as Hakeem Isler, creator of Psy Games International. You'll be immersed in sound journeys offered by Metapop musician Omashar and harp and crystal bowl performer Shelley Reed. Channelers Pia and Colin will be transmitting messages from different star races. Host of one of the most popular podcasts on YouTube, Yannicka, will be hosting a live Wisdom from North show. A highlight of our event will be the Sedona Skywatches, hosted by contactee Chris Bledsoe and Sedona UFO tour guide Melinda Leslie. I am your host, Suzanne Ross, and my co-host will be Alan Steinfeld, with quantum creator Andy and meditation guide Tangela. We invite you to join us for our 2026 Sedona Ascension Retreat. We will be opening portals through unconditional love. See you in Sedona.